Hi, I'm Aleksander Orłowski, professor at the Gdańsk University of Technology. There is a lot of talk about smart cities today. Traffic control systems, data collection, reduction of air pollution. Even the old joke says that in the past people were smart and today we have smartphones left. At the same time, American data indicate that everything is with the name of smart is on average 22% more expensive. What is good for technology producers, however, need not to be such for city inhabitants. So, what is the role and maybe what place of people in smart city? Residents, as in one city, actors were indicated in third lecture. Currently, the human context in smart city will be presented in one area, smart citizens in smart city, with the main challenge from the perspective of both city officials and residents. When analyzing the issues of role and places of people in smart city, three main areas can be identified. First, the involvement of city residents in functioning of the city. Secondly, smart city is primarily intended to serve the residents of given city, despite the fact that tourists, clerks, or business representatives are also staying in the city. Thirdly, the perspective indicating the recipient of changes, projects taking place in smart city, which should always be inhabitants, indirectly or directly. Because of the time limit, the first approach will be discussed in this lecture. The other two are in the attached materials, lecture 9. Boyd Cohen proposed a model representing three generations of smart city. There is Smart City 1, is a city where representatives of technology companies, mainly IT, are trying to sell tools used so far in business. Smart City 2.0 is a city that defines a problem, for example, garbage collection like in Rio de Janeiro before Olympic Games, and asks technology companies to help solve the problems. Finally, Smart City 3.0 is a city progressing as in Generation 2.0, but engaging in decision-making processes of the inhabitants. How to do it and why does the city do it? First, from the perspective of city officials, they must see the benefits of engaging residents in the decision-making process. Today, social consultations are very often organizing. In many countries, compulsory, for example in Poland, from which, however, little is seen from the perspective of officials. Most people who are against, without substantive comments, participate in the public consultations process, which from the perspective of city officials often means that such consultations are a long, inefficient, but mandatory process. Looking from the residents' perspective, the challenge of Smart City 3.0 should be pointed out that today it would be very difficult to find a city that declares that it does not want to take into account the voice of the inhabitants. Even if the officials actually want to listen to the inhabitants, it is not always easy. When consulting projects, for example, on the construction of the new tram route, they should be also able to talk to residents who have at least basic knowledge of design or economic aspects. At the same time, the challenge is how to encourage people to want to devote their private time for development of the city and, for example, consulting urban projects. This requires a certain social maturity, but also faith that commitment has a chance to translate into change. And here, the role of the office is to build such a sense. In addition to indicating the smart city generation and thus the role of the residents in city management, one of the new, more perspective can be identified today. As indicated in the first slide today, when talking about smart city, the most common technological aspects are indicated. At the same time, not only smart city projects being implemented in existing cities around the world, but also completely new cities are being built based on the vision of smart city. The most famous example of such a city is Masdar in the United Arab Emirates. It is a city in which the focus was on architectural, urban, and technological solutions in order to include limiting the temperature inside the city, limiting the air pollution through the special communication system, etc. A large part of the city was established. However, a small number of people live there. Why? Well, because the city looks more like a laboratory, not a place to live. That is why the most studies people declare that most friendly rich cities are, for example, New York City. Despite the huge number of problems like communication are not the latest ICT solutions. But the city is not the technology that people living in who may consciously want or not want to use some technology. It is people who create the city climate, the lack of which is so evident in technological projects such as Masdar. The role of residents, not only in the existence but also in creation of the cities, has been known for many years. Jane Jacobs, already in 1961, in her The Death and Life of Great American Cities, wrote that cities have the capability of providing something for everybody, only because and only when they are created by everybody. Despite enormous technological changes, this truth has not changed and applies to all cities, also smart cities. To sum up, it should be pointed out that smart cities are built by smart people, not smart things. The more implementation of technology without the ability to use it by residents wanting to use it is pointless, which is currently appearing in the reports of many consulting companies or the industry plus. See Forbes from 2019. At the same time, the involvement of residents in functioning of the city is a value. Technology in smart city is a tool, not an end it itself. Here are some references used in this presentation that might be useful for further investigation. Now you know more about one of three perspectives of people in smart cities. To know the other two and also more information about context, policy, and government in smart cities, join the course.